You have just found your way out of chronic UTI struggles. Now, that may sound like a bold statement. Hang with me through this video and you'll understand why. Before we get into things, because nobody likes trying to guess when the op's coming or when this training becomes less value than pitch, here's the deal. If you like what I show you, below this video is a mini course that I've put together that you are able to start implementing all on your own, and it's only $47. If that's for you, awesome. I'll tell you more about it at the end of the video. If it's not what you're looking for, if you're not looking to spend that money right now, if you're not quite there yet, that's okay too. You are still going to gather so much value and insight from this video that I encourage you to stick around. All right, since you're here, I know that you are seeking UTI relief now. And chances are you're skeptical that can be achieved without some azo on board and without chugging a bunch of cranberry juice. So I'm here to tell you that it is absolutely possible. There are two types of people out there who are struggling with chronic UTI symptoms. There are those people who choose to live life limited by symptoms. These people become trapped in the death spiral of chasing infections, ultimately getting diagnosed with interstitial cystitis, which is basically a dead end sentence for chronic UTIs. This is a diagnosis of interstitial cystitis is signing up to deal with UTI symptoms for the rest of your life with very, very minimal relief from very invasive procedures. So it's true that some of these people who are living life limited by their symptoms find a bit of relief. Some of them find even a good deal of relief through dramatic changes in diet. We're talking super restrictive diets. We're talking crazy lifestyle changes. That's possible. That's why there are IC nutritionists out there. But people who are living life limited by their symptoms are always living right on the edge, always trying to stay one step ahead of their symptoms. And then on the flip side of the coin, they're the limit breakers, the people who are unwilling to live life restricted by their symptoms. These are the people who know there's a better way, who know that to live life abundantly and symptom-free is absolutely possible while still eating all of the foods that you enjoy and not constantly being consumed with the thought of, oh my gosh, how do I stay ahead of this? How do I stay ahead of this? Because UTI symptoms are so far in the past that you aren't worried about them anymore. So if that's who you want to be, well, stick with me for the next few minutes. I'm going to show you how to become a limit breaker. All right. I'm going to start out telling you a quick story. Before we jump into it, here's what this is not. This is not selling you on some magic bean supplement. This is not another nutrition program. This is not something that's super complex. And it's definitely not something that is hard to implement because, quite frankly, whether you get all the science or not, doesn't matter. You follow these steps, you are going to break free of UTI symptoms. All right. At the core of this is something surprisingly simple. This whole thing is around flipping your metabolic switch, which your body hit the e-stop on. Okay. Now, I started experiencing chronic UTIs when I stopped hormonal birth control. And in fact, it is really common. Well, let me tell you the rest of my story, and then we'll get into why it's so common for women to start experiencing chronic UTI symptoms when a major change in reproductive hormones happens. Okay, now I did what most people did. I went to the walk-in clinic. I suffered through the lecture on proper feminine hygiene, even though I was 40 something at the time, and it was my first UTI ever. I still sat there, tried not to roll my eyes while the nurse went through, "Oh, are you wiping front to back?" Because ultimately, what I was after was that little piece of paper with my prescription for an antibiotic, which I went and filled like a good little girl, took, and found some relief while I was taking the antibiotic itself, only to find myself relapsing with more symptoms once that prescription ended. So once I'd run through my round of antibiotics, those UTI symptoms came raging. And so what did I do? Well, I repeated that pattern. I kept going to the walk-in clinic, getting the lecture, walking out of there with a prescription, taking the antibiotics, getting some relief, only to relapse once that antibiotic ran out. And I did this over and over and over and over again until my standard urine culture started coming negative. And at that point, I fell deeper into this chronic UTI death spiral. I started chasing micro-infections, started working with a practitioner where, you send off a little sample of your pee to get some PCR analysis, comes back, "Oh, you've got this micro-infection. Let's put you on this antibiotic." And so then it was that same cycle. It was just, instead of those standard urine cultures, it was micro-infections for a while. And I did this. Um, well, ultimately, my battle lasted for 18 months. So a full year and a half of doing that chase while simultaneously chugging cranberry juice. So on certain days, I was chugging half a gallon of cranberry juice at a time. I was taking tons of D-mannose capsules. I was taking specific probiotics that are recommended for UTIs. I was reaching for the azo. And here's where I'm going to mention, I'm a pharmaceutical research scientist. The active ingredient in many over-the-counter TI treatments is a compound known as methenamine. Methenamine gets converted to formaldehyde, a known cancer-causing agent inside the bladder. I knew this while I was taking it. So this means my preference was to get some relief, even though I was putting a cancer-causing agent into my body at the expense of dealing with UTI symptoms. So most women don't know that. Don't know that methenamine is converted to formaldehyde inside the bladder. Don't know that formaldehyde is cancer causing. Uh, it's not a good long-term option. It's not a good short-term option. It's what we've been told is our option. Yeah. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I was also chasing microinfections. Now, with these I really and truly thought the microinfection path would be my salvation. What happened instead was the healthcare practitioner that I was working with, every time I'd go in with these UTI symptoms again and we do the microinfection test, she would put me on a harsher and harder round of antibiotics, typically lasting longer and longer, until one appointment where she handed me a prescription for an antibiotic so harsh and a duration so long, I was convinced I'd wind up with C. diff and likely dead by the time I finished that round of antibiotics. And in that moment, like in that moment of sitting there looking in disbelief at this prescription in my hand, like at the prescription in my hand, and going, "Oh, shiz, this is not good. Like, am I really considering doing this to myself?" In that moment, I was so shaken to my core that I finally heard that still small voice inside say very clearly, you realize you're practicing the definition of insanity, right? And that is when I finally realized that I was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's also the day I drew a line in the sand. And as I sat there, I listened to that inner voice more. This is a voice that had been telling me all along for the whole previous 18 months that there was something deeper in what I was experiencing, that there was a real root cause that was not being addressed and being completely overlooked by our Western medicine system, because we quite frankly don't have the tools to detect it in Western medicine. There is a gap, and I think you'd agree with me here, between what the body knows, and this is where symptoms present, and what Western medicine can detect. So basically, when I left the office, I threw that prescription note in the trash. I did not fill that prescription, and I opened myself up to the universe and I said, "Okay, show me what I'm missing here." And still to this day, like one of the most miraculous things that has ever happened in my life is within 1 week, I held the key, like the key discovery, the thing that I did not have, like the missing puzzle piece in my hand one morning in my bathroom. And what was that? Well, this discovery let me break free of symptoms within 1 week. So we are talking no longer having cloudy urine. We're talking getting rid of that weird smelling pee. So my pee went back to normal smelling. We're talking no longer burning while I was peeing. And the other thing is urinary urgency was also subsiding drastically, like it falling off a cliff, the urinary urgency. It was dissipating. And I was so thrilled with my own experience, and I was so convinced that this was already documented in the literature. Like, even though I'd spent so much time, so much of that year and a half I'd spent researching and Googling and trying to piece things together, when I had kind of this key puzzle piece, I was like, oh, I know what to Google now. Oh, there's nothing that's going to keep me from piecing all of this together. And so I did. I found evidence available in peer-reviewed journal articles that supported my own experience, that supported what I'd experienced in my own body. And so I started writing about it. And uh, what what was so cool is that when I started writing about it and sharing it with other women, all of a sudden testimonials just started showing up pretty much like magic in my inbox. Uh, this really got me fired up. So I want to show you how to do in the next few minutes. I want to show you how to do the same thing for yourself to experience immediate relief from urinary urgency and burning while peeing, which these two things in my mind are the absolute worst two symptoms of chronic UTI. Now, I'm willing to bet that this is the first time that you've heard what I'm about to share with you. What's holding you back from getting rid of your chronic UTI symptoms is this: your body is in a metabolic crisis. The metabolic emergency stop button got hit, and your body's going, oh crap, what do I do? I cannot meet energy demands. Okay, now the reason why this struggle showed up for you is because you're dealing with a hormone imbalance, specifically of the hormones that are responsible for converting the food you eat into energy. So these hormones in particular have absolutely nothing to do with estrogen and progesterone being in balance. Although what happened was estrogen did something to throw these three hormones out of balance. And what did estrogen do? Well, for most women, UTI symptoms pop up at key changes, like huge hormonal fluctuations in our lives. So this is onset of menarche when you first start menstruating as a woman, so like in your teenage years. This is starting or stopping, either of those two, starting or stopping hormonal birth control, getting pregnant, giving birth, that perimenopause menopause transition. Why? It's because estrogen has such a profound impact on your metabolic hormones. What are your metabolic hormones? These are thyroid, insulin, cortisol. Now, the particular program that I'm talking to you about today addresses insulin only. Why insulin? Because insulin resistance, essentially why your body hit the e-stop button on your metabolism, is it found itself in an insulin resistant state. That means it is unable to use insulin properly in order to convert the food you eat into fuel. And here, when I am talking food, the food that you eat that gets converted into energy falls into three categories. These are proteins, fats, and carbs. Carbs are also known as glucose or blood sugar, and that is your body's preferred energy source. Now, why is it preferred? Certain cells within your body are only able to use glucose as an energy source. Okay. Certain cells in your body are only able to use glucose as an energy source. So when you suddenly wake up one morning in an insulin resistant state, which again can happen due to dramatic changes in estrogen, what happens is your body flips the switch. It flips the metabolic switch to the off position. And the body says, okay, I guess I'm using fats now to burn or to generate to meet our energy demands. And so it begins using fats. And at face value, you might think, oh, that's terrific. I've been wanting to burn fat the whole time. The problem is when we get shifted into this fat burning state, it's essentially the predominant program is there's an energy crisis. Okay, so it's not, hey, we're burning fat now. It's, hey, there's an energy crisis. This is all hands on deck. This is use whatever food you can, throw it into the fire. We need to make some energy. Okay, that's what's really going on. So when you preferentially make most of the energy that the body needs fat, it puts you in a keto state. If you've heard about the keto diet, know anything about the keto diet, ketosis. This means the body's making ketones as a waste product, and waste products have to get eliminated from the body. Ketones pass out of your body through urine, sweat, and breath. If you've told that your breath smells fruity or weirdly sweet, or if you have a sickeningly sweet odor to your urine, then this indicates the presence of ketones in your body fluids and in your breath. Like this indicates the presence of ketones within your body at high concentrations high enough to cause problems. Okay. Ketones cause the exact same symptoms as UTIs. I'm going to repeat that in. Ketones cause the exact same symptoms as UTIs. What does this mean? All right. Ketones cause glycerin. Ketones cause weird smelling pee. Ketones, because they irritate the bladder lining, they cause urinary urgency. Because they irritate the urethra lining, they cause burning while you pee. Why do they cause cloudy urine? Ketones aren't that soluble in urine, hence the cloudiness of it, because they're starting to crash out. They're starting to, it's kind of like if you, oh, what is a good example of this? The thing that comes if you take oil and water, and let's say you take a whisk, so you watch a whisk and you were to whisk the oil and water and then look at it, it's going to be cloudy for a few minutes until that oil and water splits. It's the same way with the ketones, only the ketones crash out as solid. All right. You may be thinking, but my doctor has tested my urine and says there's no ketones in it. Or my doctor says my urine is normal. My doctor did too. My doctor said my urine's normal, my blood work is normal. There's no indication of ketones. There's no indication of weird blood sugar, like a blood imbalance. This circles back to what I said earlier. There is a huge gap between what the body knows and what Western medicine is able to detect. And in this gap is where you have UTI symptoms. This is where you have lots of other symptoms that are eventually going to lead to disease. They're going to lead to something that Western medicine can detect. But right now, you're in this ocean between where the body knows and where Western medicine can detect. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do anything about it. In fact, you should do something about it because that's going to take you back to a state of health. You're going to be over here where you are symptom free, not here where your body, not here in this where your body's experiencing symptoms, but you can't detect it yet. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, also, I'm a pharmaceutical research scientist. I have worked with plenty of solvents, including acetone. Acetone is a ketone. I know what ketones smell like. I had told every single one of my doctors over that year and a half period that I was like, my pee smells like acetone. I think I've got ketosis. I think I'm in ketosis. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I'm passing ketones in my urine. And every single one of them assured me that my urine was normal. There's no evidence of ketones here. I let myself be gaslighted. I let myself fall victim to medical gaslighting. And that is not something, as a limit breaker, it still irks me that I let myself fall prey to that for so long because I know better. Right. Now, here's the thing. When I made the necessary changes that allowed my body to switch the metabolic switch back to on, so we've acknowledged the emergency stop was pushed and we flipped the switch back to on. When I made those necessary changes to flip that switch from fat burning to carb burning, my UTI symptoms cleared and they cleared fast. What are the necessary changes? Well, as I mentioned earlier, when you struggle to convert food into energy, this signals a hormone imbalance. Like that metabolic crisis signals that at least one of your three energy conversion hormones are out of balance. These are what I refer to as the hormones that make you tick: thyroid, insulin, and cortisol. When I first when I first got insight, the one that I focused on solely was insulin, correcting insulin resistance. And that fixed my UTI symptoms without doing anything else. And so that is what this particular program focuses on, is reversing that insulin resistance. Why pick this one out of all of them? Because it's easiest to do. This is the one that so many women, like when I started sharing this information, I was only talking about insulin resistance. This is the thing that helped me. This is the thing that helped so many other women. This is why those testimonials started rolling in, is because of this insulin resistance piece and correcting that. Now, we'll talk a little at the end. Actually, let's see, where do we talk about the thyroid and the cortisol? I'm trying to think. Well, let's talk about it right now. Okay, so so component one, like thing one. thing one that this particular program does is address the insulin resistance piece. It is the 3 steps I took to break free of the chronic UTI struggle. It is the 3 steps that these other women have taken to break through the chronic UTI struggle. What you'll get when you enroll in this, when you sign up immediately, you'll get a checklist of what those action steps are. Okay. You'll also get a wellness tracker. In addition to that, you are going to get the download, which if you may have, if you've been here a minute, you might have already claimed this. This is the 3 things to avoid for when you're struggling with chronic UTIs. Those 3 things address thyroid, insulin, and cortisol. Okay, those are like the big ticket. This is what you do to support thyroid, insulin, and cortisol. So you'll get that too. Now, uh, let's see. Sorry. Sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so you'll get that too. So what you get is essentially the checklist of the action steps that I took to break free of chronic UTIs myself and the ones that have helped other women. And then you'll get the 3 things to avoid to support thyroid, uh, insulin, and cortisol. Okay. Now, the great news is you don't have to get all the things right. You do not have to you do not have to understand all of the science. You don't have to understand any of that. All you have to know is that we are flipping the metabolic switch back from the body in a state of strife to the body thriving. Okay. Now, when I first started down this path again, I got relief by focusing just on restoring insulin sensitivity. And that alone is what helped Marissa and many other women like her do that. And I just want to read to you what Marissa said. In 2023, I got 7 UTIs in 9 months. I was missing work, bedridden, constantly having stomach aches, nausea, and weight gain from taking antibiotics every month that were messing up my gut bacteria. My doctor recommended that I get a cytoscopy to take a biopsy of my bladder lining. And for a week or so, I was actually considering it because I didn't want another UTI. And then I found Brandy, and quite literally, I have not gotten a UTI since. This is compelling evidence, and I love Marissa's testimonials so much for so many reasons. It embodies like the other glowing reviews that I've received from women, and hers was my very first one. She's been such a spokesperson, such a proponent promoting this program to other people that she knows that struggle with chronic UTIs. Now, if you're still here and this video is getting you really excited about the possibility of breaking free of UTIs and you're wondering just how to implement what you've heard, I want to do something special for you. Below this video, I've given you access to register for those first 3 steps I took to break free of chronic UTIs. And again, it's going to include that bonus of the 3 things to avoid to support thyroid, insulin, cortisol balance. These are, again, those 3 things are the exact things that allowed me to break free of the chronic UTI cycle in less than a week. And quite honestly, I found relief within 24 hours of implementing the things on that checklist. Okay. So here's what these steps do. They list immediate alternatives to standard options that are going to give you that immediate relief that you're seeking from UTI symptoms. These alternatives are better for you, they're better for your body, and they prime your body to begin restoring insulin sensitivity, which is where we're going with this. Okay, these also, or these steps give you the complete list of essential vitamins, minerals, and nutrients needed to support the body's energy conversion processes and get you back to burning carbs instead of fats. And they also provide the diet and exercise tweaks necessary to restore insulin sensitivity. So once again, this is about minor adjustments, not a complete overhaul. And these are things that you are able to implement with ease because not, again, we're not about super strict diets. We're not about crazy exercise programs. We're about small tweaks to give you profound results. This is the first time I am offering this outside of any program or one-on work with clients. I want to let you register for it for just $47 because I truly believe that it is the next best step for you.